Alright, now we're going to take a look at Intamin. I was the lead here in 2014 before I got moved to Goliath. This was a very easy ride to operate, very easy to train people. Basically, the ride goes back and forth and it stops right here. Take your test. But anyway, so this is the original panel. This is the Intamin version. And the one at Discovery Kingdom, I don't know, maybe they redid it, now they repainted it. But the last that I had seen a couple years ago, it was this. And I'm sure Wicked Twist or the other impulses are like this too. And so it has the same buttons as it does now. They were just in different places. So that's the E-stop, trouble light. That's the auto cycle stop. Now it's called the ride stop because just to be consistent. Launch buttons. Open the entrance and exit gates. But this ride, I actually have some footage of me turning the ride, or stopping the ride and starting it, which is pretty neat. But here's the panel right here. Auto mode. So this would be illuminated when the ride was in auto. If the ride was ever stopped or there was an error, this would blink rapidly. Intamin really liked the rapidly blinking buttons. Giant Drop has that too. Manual mode was if you turned it into manual mode. And in manual mode, you could jog the train forward, jog it backwards, and then the home position is the position the train parks in the station. So if it's misaligned a little bit, you threw in a manual, and then you push and hold this button, and it would move itself into the home position. And then the test button tests the limbs, the linear induction motors, the magnets that launch the train. And it makes a really weird noise when this happens. If you're ever there in the morning, you're walking by before they open, you'll know what I'm talking about when you hear it. It's like, I'm not going to try and replicate it, but it's a different noise than they usually make. It's not the squealing. This is the trouble light up here. This would also rapidly blink. It would rapidly blink for some errors. If it was a more severe error, it would be illuminated solid. And when you're operating the ride, you always knew when something was wrong because it would get really quiet. So while the ride was going, you know, it'd go through the station, up the back spike, you'd be like, wow, it's pretty quiet in here. And that's because the fans would turn off whenever the ride was E-stopped. So you know if it went quiet, then when it came back down, it was going to stop in the brake run. And this ride can only stop in the brake run. There are no brakes in the station. So there has to be power to the ride in order for it to stop in the station. These are the entrance gates. Open and close them. That activates the load spiel. Exit gate, open and close. Harness release. So the restraints open automatically when they get into the station, and they remain unlocked for 15 seconds. And after that, they lock again. And to unlock them, you push and hold this, and then we release them, they lock again. These are the two launch buttons. I get why they had two, but I don't get the point of putting them so close together because you could still launch it with one hand. This is the lockout right here. And then ride reset, that's what you use when there was a trouble light. And on this little screen right here, it would tell you what it was. But if we watch this, that's the A phone right there. Spiel's microphone on the right side. And so you can see this tells you the status of the gates. Open, closed. The light curtain, I'll get more into that later. It's an automatic mode, auto cycle. It's in the load unload position. That's what that means. These down here, S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, are so every time a train goes back and forth, that's called a swing. So swing 1, swing 2, swing 3, swing 4, swing 5, and then it's done. So it would tell you the amount of seconds. Actually, no, I think this was how fast the flags on top of the train went through the sensor each time it went by. Not really sure. And then it would give you the date and how many cycles you had. So I'm going to press the ride stop here. And you can kind of hear a little noise. It's the air compressor is going at the same time, so you can't hear it, but you hear the clicking. That's the restraint platens going up off the train. And then you can see, oh, it's called quick stop. So Intamin called it a quick stop. And I think on Wicked Twister, if you press a quick stop, it will stop and then automatically park itself into the station. Six Flags disabled that, so when you press the ride stop, it would just stop out on the brake run. And Op 1, so the main operator console, is where it was pressed. So to restart it, it's very simple. All you did was flip this key switch. And that's the startup sound. There's a couple different ones you can get. That one is just the normal quick start. It plays for a little bit. When you're resetting it from an e-stop or for the first time for the day, it plays a lot longer. And the beeps get further apart the longer it plays. So you hit boo-doo, so eventually it would be boo-doo, boo-doo, boop, 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 and then it would start. But something unique about this ride is it had these things called light curtains, and there were these beams that were at the front and the back of the station. You can see it right there. And if someone threw like a shoe, or someone's shoe fell off, or something crossed that beam, it would stop. And I've actually got a video of me causing a light curtain. Sorry for the vertical video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my picker and wave it in front of the sensor, and you'll hear it. It plays the tone when you do that.
I believe he is 10-7.
So I wave that thing, goes out, it stops in the brake run. Hilarious, haha. And then all you do is, just like in that last video, you turn the key switch to the start auto position. This guy was pissed off that I did it. I don't really want to show him. And then what you did is the person at enable would have to push and hold their buttons, and then you would push and hold these buttons. And the train would back up, and if you let go of the buttons, it would stop. And so the train would just,
If I had seen you up here,
the train would back up. Oh, there we go, I let off. So see, if you let go, the train stops, and you push and hold it again, it'll start backing up. And the reason I did that is if it's all the way at the end of the brake run, it wasn't good to just hold it and bring it all the way in, because usually it would go too far, because it would have too much speed, because there's no brakes, and it wouldn't be able to slow it down in time, so it would miss park. So usually when it was that far out, I would let go. Once it got into the station, let the brakes stop it, and then I'd let it slowly back up into the station. And this is another view. And so, a couple bugs with this ride. The startup sound sounds different because it had rained earlier that day, and when water got in the speakers, that's how it sounded. But the thing was, if the gate switch out here was turned to open, then when you started the ride, the gate would open, even though there's no train here. Yeah, and then it would just back up, park in position, and then you'd have to switch it back into automatic mode and open the restraints. This is from them putting on the train. I don't think I have a picture of the specific piece, but towards the end of the launch track, or as we called it, the brake run, there was this piece, like in between here, that you could remove of the track. It was bolted on. You could take off those bolts, and then that's how you would take the trains on and off. So that was kind of neat. This is standing in the Yankee Clipper Pond. Oh, the holding brake. So people wonder, why doesn't this work? Well, because Six Flags doesn't want to spend money. Because part of the thing is it causes stress on the trains. This is the second version of trains that V2 has had. Because when it hangs up there, it was causing stress on the track and the train. And actually this year, I'm pretty sure it didn't open with the park because there was some there was some cracking on this back spike, which I can't even imagine how bad it would be if they hadn't added that extra support. But so this broke, and they don't want to fix it, and their justification is that it's too expensive because it damages the trains. But I know there's a Cedar Fair Park that still has one of these that operates. These up here, these are the buffers. So if a train launches too fast, it won't fly off the end of the track. It'll hit this thing. I believe it's happened once that it's hit this. Something bad has to go on for the ride to launch it faster than it thinks it does. But something funny is they never do any work on these, so they're just rusted shut. So I'm sure if anything ever hits that, it won't compress at all. It'll just feel like hitting a concrete wall, and that causes a ride error if those are ever hit. This ride goes down a lot, and it's not really so much Intamin's fault. I think it's Six Flags' fault. Because a lot of these errors, Intamin just meant as like warning messages, and you're supposed to just restart the ride and keep going, and if it keeps happening, then you take a look at it. Because most of the errors were the train going too high on the front spike. Too fast through the station, things like that. Can't remember the exact error code, but it happened a lot. Other downtimes is the light curtain. Supervisor can reset that one. The rest of the errors are maintenance only. And something else with this ride is it's called a cool down period. I don't know if it's on this video I have. But the cooldown period when it opened, so the cooldown period is how long in between launches you have to wait. So when the train parks, the cooldown timer starts. When it opened, it was 30 seconds. Then it was 45. Then it was 60. Then when I worked there in 2013, for the first time, it was 75. Then in 2014, it was 100. These days, I think it's 115 seconds. So one of the reasons this thing is so slow, and the reason we didn't even bother staffing more than 3 people at the ride most of the time, was no matter how fast you moved, you had to wait for them to hit that 115-second mark before they could launch it. So you're really only setting trains once every 3 minutes or so, because the ride cycle is 45 seconds. So if you're ever at this park and you hear them say over the microphone 115, that means that they have met the cooldown period and the train is ready to be launched. And there's me. I think this is in 2013. Actually, no. Blue uniforms. This is 2014, so this is before I got moved to Goliath. I was the lead here. Good times, good times. Alright, see you in the next one.